Putin. With us now is former Chief of Staff at the National Security Council, Fred Fleitz. Fred, it's always great to have you. I'm not sure if you heard the President's State of the Union the speech tonight, but I'm wondering if you thought when the president was saying and talking up Ukraine, it kind of sounded like this was a victory for Ukraine. And I'm wondering if that messaging in this situation might be a bit dangerous, a bit precarious. Fred, your thoughts?
Trace, it's good to be here. Sadly, it's not a victory for Ukraine, but I was glad to hear the president's support of the toughest possible sanctions. They should include complete energy sanctions. We should be training Ukrainian fighters outside of Ukraine, getting the most powerful weapons we can to the border. We cannot get involved militarily, and there are a lot of calls, even on this network, to enforce a no-fly zone, which, as you were just discussing, would get us involved in a nuclear war. Well, it could be a nuclear war with Russia, but also, if we did that, it would upset the power dynamics in Europe. There'd be nothing to stop Russia from going into Poland or the Baltic states. It's a horrible prospect to watch this going on and us not getting involved militarily, but we have to think about what would happen if we did get involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as getting involved with troops on the ground. You are going to have to, at one point in time, fight Russian fighter jets, and that's war. And that's kind of the problem that you're facing there, Fred. Back to the convoy, I mean, this thing has been waiting there for 18 hours, right? 40 miles, 18 hours. We hear reports that they're low on fuel and food, Fred, but I'm wondering why it is that the Ukrainian forces, because the skies apparently are still not controlled by Russia, why are they not using drones to go after these reinforcements?
Well, they are, but the Russians aren't defenseless. There's defenses against drones. The Russians know that the Ukrainians have a sophisticated Russian drone that can take out armored vehicles, and they are taking various steps to prevent them from doing so. But let me tell you something that we really need to be doing in this conflict. We have to be pushing for negotiations as hard as possible. We have to give Putin a diplomatic off-ramp. It's really offensive to think of the prospect that the Ukrainians may have to offer something to get the Russians to stop fighting. And I think they may have to promise neutrality. If this doesn't happen, hundreds of thousands of people could be killed. We need to find a way to do this, maybe with intermediaries like Azerbaijan or Turkey, but that should be the highest priority, I think, for the Biden National Security Council.
Yeah, and I want to play this soundbite from President Zelensky today after he spoke with President Biden, and he said, talking about his needs. Watch this, and I'll get your response, Fred.
I talked to President Biden many times. I am very grateful to him for all the opportunities and the support, but they did not hear me. I told them that Ukraine will fight more than anyone else, but we, just by ourselves, left alone against Russia, we simply cannot manage.
And I think that's the key phrase in there, Fred, where they simply cannot manage. They can hold their own. They have held their own. They're doing amazing work on the ground there, but they can't, as we all know, it's a mismatch. They can't do this forever. And one would think that these talks would be, as you said, top priority, and yet they took today off. We don't know about anything scheduled for tomorrow. What do you think is happening behind the scenes, and can they maybe have a ceasefire without coming to a full agreement?
Well, you have to give Zelensky credit for letting his people participate in the talks in Belarus, even though he probably thought this was simply a stunt by Putin to buy time, to make the world think that he's interested in negotiations. But we have to plow ahead with this further. The longer the Ukrainians can hold the Russians off, the more pain we can put on the Russian people and the Russian elite may open a window for diplomatic talks where Putin may be willing to talk, and we could come up with some kind of negotiation. No one's going to be happy with it, but as I said, the alternative is pretty horrible, and I hope we're pressing all of our allies. Maybe we can press India also to weigh in with the Russians to get them to start talking.
Fred, what do you think about Vladimir Putin going after more and more civilian targets? I mean, in Kharkiv especially, but now today in Kyiv. Is it desperation? Because it appears to be a position of weakness. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a tactic the Russians have used before. They used it in Grozny and Chechnya. It's a tactic Bashar al-Assad used in Syria to basically grind down, to reduce cities to rubble, to try to get the the country they're attacking to give in or to take control of the country, because there'll be nothing left of these cities. There'll be no resistance. There'll be no military forces in these cities because it's being destroyed by the occupying power. It's a horrible, horrible way of going about warfare. I think it's a war crime.
Yeah, but Putin is saying war crimes be damned. I got about 10 seconds for you, Fred.
I don't think Putin cares about war crimes, but he does care about winning. The Ukrainians have been incredibly effective and heroic in stopping the Russian forces, especially Russian tanks. Let's hope they keep succeeding.
Yeah, he might win on the ground, but you lose a lot of hearts and minds there. Fred Fleitz, always great to have you. Thank you, sir.
Good to be here.
Well, still to come.